trees there at the bottom. Yeah, I think that's
I didn't know you drew.
I don't. If I did a little bit when I was in college. Off there or here?
I don't guess it makes a difference.
But I don't draw good enough to do that. You know, it should be very, very simple.
Yeah. One of the prettier vistas in New York, even the old hotels against the...
Yeah, against that. What is that new building?
That I do not know.
Yeah, I really love the top of the, whatever that building is, and the ornateness of the plaza over there.
Yeah.
And then some far out modern building, you know.
Yeah.
And then to see all of that coming out of the trees,
yeah,
that blows me away.
That was always part of the magic of seeing movies about New York when I was a kid.
Yeah.
You could see these beautiful old buildings jutting up out of the trees.
Do you feel like you're coming to a movie when you come to New York? Or you live here now?
Yeah, I've been here 4 months, but I do. I know exactly what you mean. I can see myself framed against the sky.
Yeah, right. That's what I was telling Andy last night when we were driving in from Newark. They have this new Holiday Inn out there.
Yeah.
She mentioned she always feels like it's a movie when she's coming. I said, Andy, the cameras are right over there.
Here I am strolling down Fifth Avenue.
Yeah. I remember the first time I came to New York when I was when I auditioned for the Mitchell Trio, and I was coming to meet Milt Oken, and I had heard a little bit about him from the Brothers Four, and I'd never been to New York. You know, and all the traveling that I did with my family when they were moving around, we were in the South pretty much, and New York was like another country someplace.
Yeah.
And then I'd gone to the West. I've been in Los Angeles. And Los Angeles is, New York is really a unique place to me. So I came here to follow up. They'd listened to the tape that I sent. And I came and I rented a car. And I really couldn't afford to do any of this stuff. Where do you want to go? Where are we? Is this the zoo?
I really don't know where we are. I've only been through a few times. I usually just stroll kind of aimlessly. I don't know the
So where do you want to just walk around?
Yeah.
So I rented a car, and the address that I had, I didn't know that Manhattan was Manhattan, or somehow that had been kind of just stated as if, and of course, you know, Manhattan is better. So I went to some place, I got a map, and I was out someplace way over, just someplace else.
Oh, Staten Island
or
something, yeah.
And then finally got around, I came under a tunnel and came into New York, and finally located 34th Street. Yeah. And I was blown away by the city. I remember I was, and then I did really terribly in the audition.
Oh, really?
And then met Joe Frazier. I was trying to sing like Chad.
Yeah.
And I can't do that. And then they sent me over to meet Joe Frazier, who lived here in town, and Milt called Mike Cobbling and said, don't bother coming. And I went over with Joe, and we really hit it off, and learned a couple songs real quickly, and came right back to see Milt like within about an hour and a half. And it was a whole different thing, and Milt all of a sudden called Mike and had him come in, and then I ended up getting the job. But anyway, I was walking down, just some street, Madison Avenue maybe, in the evening, just window shopping, just taking it all in, feeling the city. And I saw a beautiful, beautiful lady at the other end of the street coming my way. So I was 21 years old, never been to the big city before, and I was impressed. And I thought that here was the chance for a romantic encounter. Before I think I even knew what a romantic encounter was. here comes this lady. I'm walking, window shopping. And all the time I'm trying to think, now how can I meet this gal and make an impression, you know? And so finally we're at the same window. And I said, excuse me, are you a model? She turned and she looked at me and up and down, appraised me very coolly. She said, no, I'm full scale.
Great.
And I had nothing to come back with. I was blown away.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Much for that, but I love that story.
That's funny.
This is the Woolman Rink, right? Where they have the
Schaefer Festival.
Yeah, in the summer.
Yeah.
You have a dog?
Do I? No, I've got 2 cats.
2 cats?
Yeah. It would be very difficult keeping a dog here.
Yeah.
It'd be cruel to the dog, I think, really, to keep it indoors. You need a lot of outdoors for them, I think. Pretty much.
You ever go ice skating?
Yeah, I have a couple times done it.
How do you do?
Not bad. I need to build up my ankles still more, you know, because I'm not that used to it. But
I've been on ice skates once.
Yeah.
When I was in, and I lived in Minnesota.
Yeah.
And I don't do that very well.
Really?
Like the last time.
I had started roller skating first, which is a lot easier, of course. On the other hand, I've never tried skiing.
You haven't tried skiing?
I haven't tried that yet, which I would love to.
Oh, I think you'd like that.
Really? Yeah. Well, I've been landlocked in Texas.
Where do you want to go?
Go up this way?
Now, if you get cold or anything, you sound like you have a cold.
No, I had one when I was first here, and this is just some sinus left over from it. No, this is not cold at all.
I really love this must have been a beautiful, beautiful island.
Yeah, I'm sure it was.
So what would you like to do? Do you want to walk around, or
Well, if we could
sit down in this place?
find a windbreak, I wouldn't mind sitting for a moment.
Walk around here.
Okay. They were predicting snow even last night, but it doesn't look like it now. I don't think.
It was snowing when we left yesterday.
Oh, this looks good.
I don't think that you can recreate or reproduce what happens in a concert on an album, you know. And I think that something really kind of far out and exciting, at least for me, happens at the concerts. And I was real interested to see if we could get that feeling on the tape, both for people who were there to see if it felt like the concert they remember, and for people who weren't there to make it feel like it was a concert. And I think that we did a lot better than I expected to, and I was real pleased about it.
Have you heard from listeners and feedback as to how it's been received?
Very well, I understand, yeah. Very well, and it's only been out a couple of weeks, so I haven't heard a lot, and I haven't heard so much, like I haven't been home in that time, except for this past weekend, and I really didn't do any mail or anything like that, so I haven't heard, you know, in that respect from people. But friends and or people that I just see someplace who say they have it, it's been a very favorable reaction.
Maybe I should explain what we've got in mind with the magazine. Jan wants to run, I think it's a good idea, to run this as a the Rolling Stone interview, which
Yeah.
is a question-answer format.
All right.
Which means it would run for several pages in the magazine. So whatever we talk about, that's the way it's going to end up.
All right, great.
My questions, your answers, your questions, my answers, that sort of thing.
Great.
So, in that event, we'll take some taping time today and some tomorrow, I'm sure, because after
Okay, have
today...
you worked out coming to Minneapolis?
Yeah, I'm all set. The only thing I don't know yet, I've got to call my... we might start talking with what is some common ground, which would be high school in Fort Worth, which was...
Far out.
some long ago days that...
You went to Amon Carter?
Right.
I've never seen that school. I've never been there, and we played them a couple times.
Right.
I saw the football field once.
Yeah.
I was playing football. And,
Yellow Jackets, right?
yeah, Arlington Heights Yellow Jackets. High school was, seems awfully far away. You know, the thing that I remember best about high school and about school in general, I mentioned my dad was in the Air Force, and we traveled around a lot, Chet, and like when I was born in Roswell, New Mexico, and then lived in we lived there for a while, and Dad was in Tucson for a while at one base training, and then it was back and forth to Oklahoma, where both my mom and Dad are from, and then we went to Japan for 3 or 4 years, and my little brother was born over there. And then we came back to the United States, to Oklahoma, and then we lived in Tucson for 8 years. And I went from like the 2nd grade through the 8th grade in Tucson, Arizona. And in Tucson at the time, 8th grade was the end of junior high school, and you had 4 years of high school. So I went from there to Montgomery, Alabama. Dad was there for 1 year, and the 9th grade there was still in junior high school. And I started the 9th grade a week after everybody else had started school, not knowing anybody. And I was 13 years old, and that was a very difficult thing for me. And what happened is I was in a chorus class, and I brought my guitar to a class one day, or at least they asked why you took chorus instead of study hall, you know. And I brought this, I told them that I liked music, and I played guitar, and I wrote songs and stuff. And so they asked me to bring my guitar to school one day to play in the chorus class, which I did. And all of a sudden, people knew me in the halls. People would start saying hello and stuff. And then that just built through the year until I had friends. But the music is what opened the door for me.
Were you basically shy to begin with?
Yeah, I think that I kind of was. I don't know that I'm shy anymore, and I'm a lot more secure in myself, so it doesn't come up. And also in the work that I do, you know, I just have the opportunity of meeting people a lot, so I handle it. But I think when I was a kid, I think, you know, most 13-year-old kids are shy, and even if they, whatever act they come on with to make you think they're not shy, it's still shyness or insecurity that it comes
whether
from.
it takes the form of bulliness or whatever.
So I was there 1 year, and then I moved to Fort Worth and started Arlington Heights High School in exactly the same kind of situation. Got there not really knowing anybody, and through church and more than church itself, and I wanted to sing in the choir. I always liked to do that. But senior high fellowship, where I met a few kids that that were going to the same school. And then in school, my guitar and sports are what made friends for me, how I got to know people, or how I created space for them to want to get to know me, or whatever all of that is, you see. And so high school in Fort Worth, and then the first year I was there, I don't know, nothing much happened. It was just, you know, going to school and being in a new place. And then each summer, see, I worked away from home. I spent the first summer plowing up in Oklahoma for some of the friends of my dad's. That's where he was raised. And then came back and was playing football the second year, which I hadn't been able to do the first year. So, you know, there were other things going on, other activities, and I was working after school washing dishes at the McCrory 5 and Dime on Camp Bowie, if you know where that is, at Ridgely Shopping Center. So that's, and through that, and actually all of my activities were pretty much centered around, you know, school and football and church, senior high fellowship. And I got together with a couple of bands then, you know. I started playing around at high school things, or in some parties we would play at a senior proms, stuff like that. And really enjoyed that. And always, you know, it was the music was what really worked for me, I think. And it worked. I don't think I really knew that or could analyze it, but that was the thing that I always did. And that was easy, and it was made me feel good. I like singing for people.
Yeah. Since this would have been the late 50s, what kind of material were you doing? Who were you listening to?
Well, I graduated from Heights in '61, and so...
During the time you were in high school, I see that the Kingston Trio was just starting, I think.
Yeah,
probably.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Tom Dooley was, that was like 1959 or something like that. Yeah. Real big record, and all of a sudden folk music was a real big thing, you see. Now, up to that time, I'd been doing, I had an electric guitar that my folks got me when I was, I took guitar lessons when I lived in Tucson for a couple of years on the guitar that my grandmother gave me. This old guitar, the song, that's a true story. And so I took lessons for a while, then I got an electric guitar, and that was pretty much the one that I played. I had a little amplifier about that big in my guitar, you know, and I would take that to school and play for people, whatever. And then and I would do mostly the ballad songs that were popular, you know. I did a lot of Everly Brothers songs, which never were right because I couldn't sing both parts, you know. And sometimes in singing along, a lot of people would start doing that stuff too. But the electric guitar, then as a graduation present, my folks got me a Fender Jazzmaster and a Fender Pro amp. I was getting in more and more into folk music and acoustic music, you see. So, but I can't remember. El Paso was a big record around that time. I liked that song, and I did that, and then all the folk groups, you know, the Kingston Trio most especially. I didn't really become aware of Peter, Paul, and Mary until I got to college. But folk music was just kind of starting then, and it was mostly old-timey songs, and you know, new people doing old songs. It wasn't so much what they were writing yet, I don't think. And so that's some of the stuff that I was doing, and then other, you know, songs that people knew that were within my limited range of ability.
But you were still playing them acoustically rather than using your Jazzmaster?
Well, no, I was playing the Jazzmaster, but I was playing it softly. And then in the bands that I played with, mostly it was rock and roll bands, and I was a rhythm guitarist. I was never much of a lead guitarist or anything. I could play some of the stuff that was it the Fender Men or the...
Ventures?
The Ventures, yeah. I could do some of that stuff. The Walk, Don't Run.
That was some...
And I could play. I used to love to go listen to Jimmy Reed.
I used to see Jimmy Reed at Jack's place.
At Jack's place,
all right.
Okay, man, that's beautiful. And who was the band that? I don't know if they played at Jack's place. They played downtown someplace, and it was some guys from Arlington Heights.
I think I know who you mean.
And they backed up the guy that had one hit record with a harmonica. Baby.
Ray Sharp.
No, but saw Ray Sharp too a lot. Ray Sharp and Jimmy Reed. I remember going to see Jimmy Reed.
Bruce Chanel.
Bruce Chanel, Hey Baby, and the band that played behind him.
I couldn't name them.
Okay, well they were.
That's fine.
They played a club in Fort Worth. I remember going out to Jack's place and seeing Jimmy Reed, and he would start the show at night, you know, and he'd be standing up and playing and just smooth music, I thought. And then the second show he'd come out, and he probably wouldn't have his guitar the second show. He'd kind of stand up with that harmonica and he'd sing. And third show he'd probably be sitting down, you know? I thought that was far out. Far out. And Ray Sharp.
Ray Sharp had the one hit.
They call my baby Linda Lou, right? So those were the songs that I was singing with bands that I would play. You know, I used to sing all of Jimmy Reed's songs, and
that's funny. It's hard to imagine you doing that.
It's hard to
Jimmy
imagine me
Reed
doing that
beat, yeah.
on this side too.
And did you ever go downtown? It was Fort Worth's Beatnik Coffee House, the Cellar, I think.
No.
The Cellar downtown. They had. Well, that was kind of bongo drums and guitars, that kind of thing. I went a few times with it. I wasn't struck with it very much.
Is this a class?
I don't know what they do where they're
little kids come to go skating.
Yeah, they got their own skates and everything. It must be. No, I was glad to leave Fort Worth, actually, after high school.
I was too. In fact, see, I think it really took a long time for me to be able to assess what was going on for me in regard to where I lived and what I did. So I ran away from home when I was a senior in high school. And it came out of all the conflicts that happened between parents and their children, you know, and not being able to communicate, and maybe not having the same kind of interests, and just, you know, it didn't feel right. Things weren't right, and I felt responsible for it, and felt that I should leave, you know, and I didn't want to. I don't think kids do want to run away when they do, but that's what I did. And I went out to California, and I was going to try to get a job in a boat or, you know, something. And I really wasn't strong enough in my music then. That didn't cross my mind at the time. And I had my guitar with me. So I got out there, and pretty soon, about the time I got out there, I ran out of money and didn't know anybody, and got real scared and called the folks to find the number of a mutual friend that we had there. I went and stayed with them, and Dad came out and got me, and we drove home together, and talked a little bit, but I don't know that anything was really solved then, you know, or was really communicated. It's just that it got important, you know, it got to be up in front, and I think both of us wanted to make it work, you know. We didn't want to go separate ways. So now we got back together. Then I graduated from school, and like graduation night, which was a real enjoyable evening for me, and things had gotten to be good at high school, and still there was nothing solid there, you know. And so then I went to Texas Tech, and got there, and like, did you have any fraternities at Carter Riverside?
In high school?
Yeah.
No.
You know, like at Arlington Heights, there were two groups, which were like pre-college fraternities,
no, we didn't.
Peers and somebody else. And they were groups that were set up very much along fraternity lines, and hazing and all this kind of stuff, you know. And I never got involved in that. Then I went to college, and the first semester of college, I kind of stayed out of that also, and wasn't interested in really pledging anything. In fact, the whole first year. And the first year, I don't know, it was just, college was awfully exciting. All of a sudden I was on my own, and I didn't have to go to bed any particular time. I could go to bed when I wanted to, and I could study when I wanted to, and my grades showed that. And I really enjoyed playing football and between the dorms and stuff, you know. And I enjoyed being in college. It was a very carefree time for me. And I was majoring in architecture, which is something that I still really enjoy. You know, looking at buildings and learning about that at the time was very interesting to me. And a lot of stuff that I was doing just didn't have any meaning at all, you see. The second year was very much like that, except I pledged a fraternity and didn't make my grades, so I couldn't become active. And that, within that time, I really became aware of, you know, I was playing with a band again, playing a lot more than I ever had before, doing a lot of music.
Dances.
Yeah.
Films,
yeah, stuff like that. And then also, I was singing by myself. Actually, I think the that's the first year, and most of the second year was with bands and stuff, and then singing whatever I did in my room. And then I was learning, from Joan Baez and Tom Paxton, and then after the Kingston Trio, a lot of these other people came, Peter, Paul, and Mary, the Mitchell Trio, and the New Christy Minstrels, and I was eating that up. I loved all of that music, and that was the kind of music that I'd been singing, Now it had more of a label. People called it folk music, but those were the kinds of songs that I'd done before I knew what I was singing or what music, worked for me. So
had hootenannies come to Lubbock yet?
Yeah. And I played one hootenanny then, and did real well, as I recall. Did 3 songs and got a big encore. Loved it. And for my encore, I sang One More Mountain, which was a song by Perry Como. I would find these songs, this was on the backside of some record, and it was a great song, I thought. And anyway, started doing more folk music. There was a group in the fraternity that I pledged, Delta Tau Delta. There was a group called the Alpine Trio, and they were Kingston Trio, that kind of stuff. Plus they did everybody else's songs too. And every once in a while they had a girl come sing with them who sounded, and they would do some Peter, Paul, and Mary songs, And like the first one they did that always blew everybody, It's Raining, It's Pouring. Wasn't that their first hit, I think?
Probably.
First really big record. And they did that with this girl who sang Just Like Mary. And so I was doing all of that music, and I was going to school and enjoying the architecture, but nothing was happening, And somewhere around there we had the Cuban Missile Crisis, and all of a sudden my awareness extended beyond where I was at the time, and beyond where I came from, which was more or less my family and everything. And became aware of the country on a more personal level, because if we went to war with Cuba, I was pretty sure that I would be drafted. And no, I didn't want to go. Didn't want to go into the service. And then we got through that, and then President Kennedy was assassinated, and that was in Dallas. And I remember that day and the few days that followed, discussions that went on in the dorm, talking about it, everybody wondering what it was, and then we just all kind of fell in and slipped into that it happened, and that it was Oswald that did it, and that's simply how it was, and it all worked very quickly. And then the intensity of the grief that the whole nation felt, and really coming from all these different places, focused down on young, impressionable college kids, I think it was a far-out experience in all of our lives.
Very well.
Yeah. So, and nothing that was happening in Texas and nothing that was happening in college, with the exception of the music, nothing really worked for me, By working, I mean, I enjoyed architecture, but I still sloughed off at it. The one thing that I did, that I paid attention to and really tried to do as good as I could and tried to learn and grow, was the music that I did. I wanted to be able to play those songs that they did and play the right chords and do it like they did it, and I learned all of those songs. And so it got to a point, and things got, hard again with my parents, and so halfway through the junior year, at the semester break, I left. Now this is just after going home, and I'd gone home for 2 weeks. My folks had been transferred now to Florida.
Yeah.
And so I drove from Lubbock, Texas to Florida to be with them for Christmas, and had a terrible time. My dad and I were at each other's backs all the time. It just wasn't comfortable, so instead of staying 2 weeks, which we had, I left, I think, the day after Christmas or something.
Did he ever pressure you, excuse me for interrupting, did they pressure you to go into the service, to follow him?
No, there was never that kind of pressure. There was more. See, I think Dad for a long time. See, now Dad loved country and western music.
Yeah.
He's the biggest country and western fan in the world, and it was so great. A couple of weeks ago, I was nominated for some country and western awards, you know. So we went to that thing in LA, and I had my mom and dad there, and he got to meet Conway Twitty and Loretta Lynn, and I don't know if he met Merle Haggard. He met Glen Campbell and Marty Robbins.
He was happy.
It was great. So, and I really got off on that too. I really loved that evening, and it was really terrible evening.
I heard about that. You had to do the show twice virtually, didn't you? Or
well,
that's kind of,
they had to do everything
thing?
about 4 or 5 times. It was really one of the most unprofessional evenings. Least thought out, rehearsed, put together anything that I've ever.
I'm gonna get this thing off my arm, so I don't have to point it at you.
And that was a far out evening. So anyway, though, see, I don't think my dad would have preferred that I spend more time playing football or working on the car or doing things around the house or studying, none of which I was inclined to do, with a possible exception of football a little bit. But that's still, you know, the thing that I love to do and that I did all the time was sit in my room and play guitar, or want to go out and play with a band, or have the band over to my house rehearsing, and he just didn't like that, you know. And see, when I was in Alabama, before I got to Fort Worth, the one year that I was there, I got together with a band. There was a disc jockey at one station and his name was Paul Lazzaro, I think. And he put together a Saturday morning show. Like, see, when I was a kid in Tucson, they used to have Saturday matinees, you know, and you'd go down and see a whole bunch of cartoons and some cereal and then the movie, and junk out on popcorn and candy and everything you could get a hold of. Well, when I was in junior high school, they started doing things like that, and they would have disc jockeys, and they would play records, and sometimes they would have teen stars, you know, come to these things. So I got involved with this band, and we did a show like that from Selma, Alabama, and drove over there every Saturday morning from Montgomery, and the band was called the Cruisers. And Dad didn't like that at all. Didn't like that at all. So then that's also how it was through high school and into college. And then my grades didn't show anything, you know, and he was irritated me and I was irritated to him, but it was still, that was the thing that worked for me. So when I dropped out of college, and there was not one single person who said, far out, John, go for it, you know. Everybody, and I mean everybody, said that I was making the biggest mistake of my life. And also, I found out that they'd been betting on how long I was going to last. My friends in the architecture department had been betting on whether I was going to last through the semester, you know, before I left. So, and I hadn't told anybody about it, and they'd been on my mind, and it was just terrible. And then I'd gone home to my folks, and all they did was give me shit about my grades, really, and there was really no interest in finding out what was going on for me in my life, you know. And so finally I left, like I said, and then I had to write back and tell them, you know, what I was doing. And then they did, I think, probably one of the best things my folks have ever done for me, and I think the greatest thing that any parents can do for their children, is they gave me the space to go. They sent me $200, and they said, you know, we don't approve of this. We would prefer that you stay in college, and we think you're going to go slough around. But when you get tired of playing around like that, then let us know, and we'll help you go on with your education. And they gave me some money to go. So, and see, what I was trying to picture about my dad and the music is that I think they had the feeling, you know, that music, you really like to listen to music and everything, and it was nice that I had a talent, like, you know, I played guitar and could sing and sang in the choir and stuff like that, but entertainment was not something that you did for a living. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because, well, I don't know, the situation where I was in Fort Worth is probably the same. I was playing a little guitar, and I was always discouraged by my family because somehow it wasn't clean do that stuff.
Well, see, I wasn't discouraged, and maybe in a sense I was. You know, they didn't.
It wasn't something a person did for a living.
Yeah,
unless you lived in Hollywood.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. And also, entertainers were people, you know, who lived. You get a little crazy entertainers, you know, and stuff like that. So all of those things were there, you see. But but even from that frame of mind, see, they didn't discourage me. It's just that, you know, it got to be that I couldn't have the band over to my house to rehearse, and I couldn't just go play with them anytime. You know, my studies were done and grades were okay and blah blah blah, and they didn't have something else they wanted me to do. Then I could go play with the band. But it wasn't, no, you can't, and don't do that, I don't think. So from that whole frame of mind, they still let me go. And to me, that's a real experience that I've had in my life of love. Love is, I have a friend, Werner Earhart, and he says that love is giving people the space to be who they are and the space to be who they are not, which is not necessarily always you want them to be. You know what I mean? So that was great, and I didn't know how great it was at the time. I didn't really know that, what I just told you, until maybe a couple of years ago. You know, it really hit me what they had given to me. So I went out to California, and I got a job working for a draftsman, or working as a draftsman for a civil engineer and his family, who were friends of my folks from long before. In fact, the family that I had tried to get in touch with when I ran away from high school, yeah. And I got a job working with them, and then started singing every place I could. Are you getting cold?
No.
Are you sure? Okay. Started singing every place that I could to see if somebody would hire me. You know, I went to all the hootenannies, and now they were going all over everywhere in LA and everything. And the first place that I sang at was, I was going to go to the Troubadour one night, and I didn't do that. I went with a group called the Cherry Hill Singers, one of whom had been in college with me back in Texas, and I went with them to the Ice House and saw them, and they were a four-man Kingston Trio, and they did one album together, and they were the only people that I knew out there, really, you know. And I met a few other people. I met Denny Brooks at one point. Do you know Denny or know of Denny? He's a great singer, I think. But anyway, then the second week that I was there, I went to Ledbetter's, which was owned by Randy Sparks, and sang. And he came back after the show and said he really liked my voice and would like to talk to me about working there. Flipped me out, you know, totally flipped me out. Now, that came from two things. I think Randy liked me and saw some potential in me, and also that Ledbetter's was put together as a place to allow people to get their acts together so they could fit into the Christies. And the Back Porch Majority was kind of the farm club for the Christie Minstrels. And then the Back Porch Majority got good enough to where they went out on the road, and then there was a green grass group, you see. So somehow within that framework, though, he had me working as a single, not as one of the members of the majority, the Back Porch Majority. It occurs to me that the last time you asked the question was about high school, and we've gone all around that. Is that okay? Or?
Yeah,
okay.
It's a good progression.
Okay. So, I worked as a single, and he hired, well, first of all, it took some following up on, you know. That was the only interest that I'd gotten, and then I had to pursue that, had to keep at him, and finally they had me go into a studio, and a friend of mine who lives in LA who played banjo and guitar, his name was Dave Frackman, came in and helped me make this one tape for him. And Jack Daly, who for a while who was Randy's manager at one time, and worked with all of his people, and now I think for a while he was managing the Everly Brothers, and now he's working with different people in LA, and he's a good friend. He's one of the best friends that I've had in the business for not having been able to spend a lot of time together. He's another guy that did a real nice thing for me, I'll tell you one thing. Anyway, he took me to the studio, and they gave me an hour to put some things down, and Randy liked that, and so I kept following up, and so they got me, they were going to let me work at Ledbetter's for 2 weeks, and they were going to let me live in the house that Randy had in Encino for everybody in the Back Porch Majority, because I had no place to live and couldn't really afford any place. So I left the people down in Long Beach and went up and started working at Ledbetter's, and someplace somewhere somebody has some tapes of that first week. They taped all the shows, and I think you would be amazed at how, in a sense, how bad I was, but also how much, see, I went from being just really, really, really terrible to being pretty bad in about 4 or 5 days. But there was a real growth there very quickly, you know. And like that first weekend, all of a sudden I started getting encores, you know. And the 2 weeks was extended to 4 weeks, and then it was 10 weeks, and it was about 26 weeks. And then Randy started helping me get some jobs around the country, and that's not really quite the truth about it. There was a guy, Dwain Story. Do you remember him at all? He was in a group, Knoblick Upper 10,000. Knoblick Upper 10,000. There were three guys in the group, and it was pretty much a bluegrass folk country group. And he was real good. He wrote some songs that I thought were real good. Wendigo, and some other one. And one of the songs I learned from him was Two Little Boys, which is one of my favorite songs. Anyway, Randy wanted Dwain to join the Greengrass group, but Dwain had a job at a club called It's Here in Chicago. And so Randy got them to take me instead of Dwain, so Dwain could stay there, and so I got a chance to go out on the road once, you know. And that was far out and interesting, and I learned a lot, and it was hard, and didn't enjoy the It's Here very much at all. And I did well there, and did good for them. And then I was back in Los Angeles, and then Randy had a production deal through Epic Records, the Back Porch Majority and the Christies were with Columbia or something, and so Randy got a producing deal with Capitol, to where they were so pleased with what he had done up to that time that they said, if you find an artist you think's worth recording, come in and we'll give you the go-ahead. You bring anybody you want in and do a session. So Randy got me in, and I recorded 4 songs with like a 26-piece orchestra, and I'd never been in the studio before, man, and I didn't even know what I was talking about. With an orchestra, and it was a live recording too, you know. So they turned out pretty terrible, but they were something. And then I bought a new car. Randy helped me buy a new car then, or just told the bank that I was working for him and was working steadily and had been for a year or so they could give me a loan to buy the car myself. That's how I helped. And I had this new Mustang, and I had these 4 things that I'd recorded that really weren't going to be released, but they recorded, and then I went home again for Christmas. All from Los Angeles to Florida. I drove to be with my family. And one thing that happened in there, I was out in L.A. when I'd first gone out there and started working. My dad had an occasion to pass through L.A., and he showed up one night at this club and was in the audience when I did my show. And I didn't know about it. And then when I got an encore, Randy came on over the house system and said that, told everybody that my dad was there, and totally blew me away. And so after that, I drove Dad to show him where I lived, and I took him to the airport that night. And I think for the first time, he started getting an inkling, that I was working at it out there. I wasn't fluffing around. It was something that I wanted to do, and that I was halfway doing, So then when I went home that Christmas, it was a little bit different. It was different, and there was a lot more space on both sides, and I was driving a new car, and I had these records to show him, and so there I hadn't sloughed it all away, and it looked like I was doing something. And I think I was. I think it was more than it just looked like. I think, you know, things were happening for me. And there still wasn't a lot of communication going on, but things were better for us. And I went out again, and I worked in Houston at a club called the Jester.
Jester, I've been there many times.
Far out! Mac Webster.
Guy Clark there, and Mac Webster.
Guy Clark, Mac Webster was the guy that owned it, right? So I worked at the Jester one January, and he hired me for 2 weeks, and then kept me there for 4. And that was a really good date for me. And then the Kingston Trio came into town at one time there, and were playing at the Edgewater or something like that. And they came out to see the show, and I met John Stewart, met the rest of the group, went to a couple parties with them, and then got to be friends kind of with John Stewart, and still are good friends. Is it getting colder?
Yeah,
I think it is getting
some
cold.
tea or coffee.
Want to do that?
Yeah. Was I turning blue or something?
Well, I feel like I'm turning blue.
Well, I thought everyone in Colorado was so hardy that it didn't matter.
Well, I wouldn't go so far as to say that. The big difference in Colorado is that it's a lot drier here.
Yeah.
A lot drier. And
Yeah.
it can be this temperature in Colorado and to have the sun out, you can be in a t-shirt. You know?
Yeah.
But not so in New York.
No, I don't think
So do you want to keep talking, or?
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting to me. I've looked forward to this, Chet, and I'm excited about doing it. And it's interesting to me that I'm talking so much.
Really?
You know, it's just interesting. So, I don't want to get in the way of the interview.
No.
You know,
I'll stop you.
Okay.
If you get into
Okay.
if you talk about Kissinger too much. Or
Yeah, right.
anything.
So anyway, where was I?
See, had made it to the Jester.
To the Jester. Oh, the Jester. And the Kingston Trio and all those guys. And then I went back to L.A. and somehow Randy was tired of me. You know, somehow things have changed. And see, Randy was really, really nice to me. And he gave me a great opportunity and gave a lot of people a really good opportunity to do work, you know, and also he had tight controls over what he was doing.
Yeah, that's,
you know?
I seem to recall it just as a member of the listening public, seeing the stuff he was associated with. You know,
Yeah.
actually.
But
See, we come this way.
I think we came under a little bridge over here. Or if we can go that way. I know there's no...
But it seemed like he was like a ringmaster kind of
Yeah.
sort of thing. You know?
Yeah. But he wasn't only taking, though, from the people who worked for him.
Yeah.
He was giving a lot, too, and that's what should be acknowledged. And, but anyway, he'd kind of gotten tired of me. And there was another guy who was opening the shows for the Back Porch Majority, and there was another group, and just a few things happened, a few different shows, and we were kind of falling out. And see, when I first got together with Randy, after I sent him that tape, and the first week that I started working at Ledbetter's, we had this meeting, and they wanted me to sign a contract, and it wasn't with Randy, strangely enough. He wanted me to sign a contract with Jack Daly.
Oh.
See? And I was 20 years old, so I couldn't legally do that.
Yeah.
But I did. And I told them that I was 21. And I did that, and from the point of view, it seems to me looking back, that first of all I had to be 21 to work at that club.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to work, and this was a chance to work here with somebody who was halfway interested. And I wasn't going to let me not being 21 get in the way of doing the work that I wanted to do. So I lied to them and signed that contract. And then all these things happened, and then Randy was getting tired of me. And on a trip tour from Florida by way of Houston, I auditioned at a club in Phoenix called the Lumbermill, and they hired me to come back and work over Easter. And I went back there, so Randy was tired of me, and I wasn't working that much at Ledbetter's, so I had this job in Phoenix, and I went there and worked, did real well, and one evening the Brothers Four came in to see me, and I didn't know that they were there. Didn't meet them, but excuse me, after I finished that engagement a couple weeks later, we went to I was back in LA, and Mike Kirkland called me and told me that all this stuff was going on with the trio, which was that Chad was leaving the group basically, and had given him like 6 months notice to find somebody to replace him. So, where do you want to go? Do you want to go to the hotel? We can go up to the room.
Well, I was thinking if they have a coffee shop there, that would probably be the quietest place for you. That's the only thing with going like to a coffee shop downtown. I'm feeling you'd be spending so much time signing autographs that you couldn't talk really. Which would be nice for you, but not for me.
That's all right. Thank you. Oh man, I think they don't think we're staying in a hotel. That's okay. Maybe with the lady, let's go to the room. Would you like to do that, or do you want to go?
It would just take too long.
Okay, and then we can order something up from room service. Not yet.
Okay. My wife's here tomorrow.
Oh yeah? Thank you very much, and tell her I said thanks too. Can I have a key to room 727?
Yes.
Good morning, sir. I'm fine today, thank you. I feel a little remorseful that I don't have a tie on. I can't get into the cafe. Oh well, que sera. Thank you. Bye. One of the last holdouts, breakfast, coat, and tie. Yes, sir.
Old elegance.
It's a Cher, Netherlands.
Yeah, just in the next block.
Yeah. And, but we were there once. I think it was when we were in Nassau Coliseum last year. Thank you. And I had the whole group with me. We always stayed in the same hotel. So we had to share everyone down. Real nice, and it's quiet, which I like. It's not like. Yeah, exactly.
Was it full this time, Sherry?
Well, hello?
Hello?
You gals still here?
Yeah?
I thought you were going shopping.
Oh, we
Are you
are.
decent?
They're cold, huh?
Hiya, Zach. Yeah, I did. Annie, this is Chet.
Hello.
My wife,
Nice to
Annie.
meet you.
And this is Gloria.
And this is little Zach.
Hiya, Zach.
Zach, can you say hi?
Say hi, Chet.
We're leaving right now, you guys, so.
Hello there.
Yeah, let's just make it nice. We got a stroller, we got everything else together.
It's cold out, Annie.
Is that,
Yeah,
oh, maybe we should bring, well, we've got a sweater, a heavy sweater. You know how he sweats.
Okay.
He's already sweating right now.
Yeah, feel him. How about a heavy sweater and then, what do you think, his jacket? Should we put his jacket?
We'll wait after that. Jacket in his hat.
We aren't
Let's
walking
do
that
this
far.
sweater.
Okay, so,
Everything's in the back of his stroller.
well, it's too bad it's not nice to you guys. Oh, well.
Who's that guy saying?
This is just about the most far out thing that ever happened.
Well, Zach. Yeah?
Take your coat off. Sit down, Chet. You want me, tea you mentioned. Would you like anything added to that? And anything at all?
Some toast would be good.
Toast?
Warm one up a little.
Do you want just toast, or we can have, how do you,
Let's see.
assorted rolls, corn or bran muffins, toast English muffin, croissants? What is,
That's a real light French.
is that how you say it?
Poisson. Poisson. I can't get the
Poisson?
French. Poisson. I can't roll my R.
What are those?
Brioche is a big round breakfast roll. It's really soft and real fluffy. The poisson is real flaky.
Yeah. Or, look, whatever you like.
What do you think?
Well, I'm gonna have another large orange juice, some coffee.
No, I didn't cover him. He had it on his light sack and his pajamas.
Hey, you guys, so I don't have to take the key, I'll leave the key here for you.
Well, I just got another, Nanny, so why don't you take this, because I may not be here when you get back.
Dad, are you come shopping with Mom Glow?
Let's put this on him and just leave his heavy sweater here.
Where are those addresses going?
I'll,
Huh?
Yeah, we'll put a jacket on. We've got a blanket and we've got an umbrella and he's got rain.
it's a little windy, it's damp,
Yeah.
and if you're out on the street a lot.
All right, you guys, did you
We'll be
take?
in and out of
you
cabs
that
and
notebook
stores
there?
and-
Huh?
That notebook there, did you take it?
Come on.
Which one?
The old hat time
No, I
again.
didn't.
I have some addresses
It's
written
the
down.
old hat time. Yes. It's the old hat time.
Hal calls, I called him, told, but he wasn't there.
Yeah.
He calls, tell him I'm gonna call him before I go.
So I got this call from Mike Kirkland about the trio.
Oh, the Mitchell.
You see?
Chad Mitchell Trio.
Yeah,
Good time.
and wow, this was far out. Here was a chance to audition, for somebody that I listened to when I was in college, and it was a group. Anyway, in June I was back in Phoenix for a second time, and I'd finally got it together. And Jack Daly helped me make this tape, you see, to send to them, which had about 5 or 6 songs on it. And I guess Milt Oken, who was the musical director for the Mitchell Trio, the Brothers Four, Peter, Paul, and Mary, see, they had been in this thing, and they knew when Chad was going to leave the trio, so he told all these other groups, when you're around at colleges, I'm sure you hear people once in a while, or everybody wants to sing for you, show you their song, but if you hear some people who think are good, have them send the tape to me, about taking Chad's place. So that's basically what happened. They and I guess they had 250, 300 tapes or something like that, and one of them was mine, which Mike Kirkland had put me in touch with him, to send this tape. So they were interested in the tape, and they flew me to New York. They called me, and I was working in Phoenix again, and wanted me to come to New York, which is where we started this morning, to audition for the trio. And I had kind of a cold, and I was trying to be sing like Chad. See, there's an interesting little point here, at least to me, because even though I did all of these different people's songs, I didn't do just one group's songs. I wasn't just a Peter, Paul, and Mary fan, nor was I just a Joan Baez fan, or a Tom Paxton, or anybody. I did all of their songs. and I tried to do them right as far as the chords go and everything like that, but I never tried to do it like them. Didn't ever want to copy anybody, you know? And when people ask me now about music and stuff like that, the one thing that I say is you know, find out if it works for you or not, which has to do with a lot of things, I think. But don't copy anybody. Don't copy anybody. And you know, do it your way. Find out about yourself and how you do it, and do it that way. Don't copy anybody. So anyway, I got here, and in that first audition, I tried to sing like Chad, and just did terrible. And Milt sent me over to Joe Frazier's house on the west side, and I met he and his wife Charlotte, and learned these two songs. One was a very hard up-tempo kind of thing, and the other one was a soft, light thing, but that was kind of difficult. Had a counterpoint melody and counter time. And I learned very quickly, and I learned it, and about an hour and a half later we were back at Milt's office with Joe singing together, and it was a whole different thing, see. And so then they called Mike in, and I sang one day with them, and then they sent me back to Phoenix. Don't call us, we'll call you. So, and then an interesting story happened in Phoenix. So I'm sitting around waiting for this phone call. I mean, I don't leave the motel at all, except to go to the Lumbermill to work at night. So one day I was laying around the pool, just laying around waiting for this phone call, and I decided I was going to go down to the A&W to get some lunch and bring it back to the hotel. And I went out and got in my Mustang. I had a dark blue Mustang convertible. Okay, I loved it. Oh boy. And I went out and got in a car. Took my wallet, and I'm in a bathing suit, and I put on a t-shirt, and I'm barefooted, and I had sunglasses on. So, and as I'm getting ready to pull out on the far lane going left, I notice that the next car coming down the way is a police car. But, you know, he's down his way, so I'm just, that's something that registered, you know, is all. And I pulled out, and I'm driving on the speed limit and doing everything fine, and I get there, and I'm just about ready to turn into the A&W, and this car was right behind me with his lights flashing. So scared me to death. So I pulled over and you know, went ahead a little bit and got over to the right and stopped. And two guys got out, and I'm sitting there trying to figure out what I've done. You know, two guys get out. One guy comes here and one guy comes here, and want my driver's license. And I go back to the car. You know, what am I doing here? And then about the time they get back, two more cars pull up, real quick, police cars. And one of them comes out and he's got a notebook and he starts asking me all of these questions, you know. Pretty soon two plane cars pull up and a plainclothesmen get out. Five cars surrounded me, and I'm scared to death, and I'm sitting there, and they want to search the car, which they do and everything. And pretty soon, I said, listen, you guys, I don't know that I've done anything wrong, and you're really making me uptight, and I want to know what's happening. And he said, well, son, yesterday in downtown Phoenix, a bank was robbed. The suspect was described as being between 20 and 25 years old, with blonde hair, sunglasses, driving a dark blue Mustang convertible with California license plates. And that was me, man. Hello. I started shaking. I said, listen, you guys. Yeah, that's exactly what you said. You know, maybe I did do something. I remember once coming back from Mexico, and when Ann and I, we had gone down there. This is later on in the story, as far as, you know, where I'd come from and got here, the chronology of events. But we came through. We'd gone down to Mexico City to sing at an RCA convention. It was the year that Rhymes and Reasons was coming out in September, and this was just before that. And I went down to sing at this convention, and Ann and I are coming back, you know, and in bell bottoms and long hair, and I'm carrying a guitar, and it was the day they started Operation Intercept. And we landed in Chicago, coming from Acapulco, and they went through everything. They made both of us go in separate rooms and undress and all this kind of stuff. You know, you start thinking that you have done something.
Maybe I've done something.
Yeah, I've got to. So that was, but anyway, the story in Phoenix, and I said, listen, you guys, I didn't do it. I promise I didn't do it. I'm not going anywhere. And so they let me go that day. And then the next day, the guy was arrested, and I think it was like a Mexican American, black hair, and it was a Mustang fastback tan with Arizona license plates, something like that, you know, which really irritated me after the fact because, boy, I thought for a while. And I'd seen some movie with Ursula Andress and John Derrick where he was a hitchhiker coming through town, and she picked him up and had a little thing, and then her husband was killed. And the police thought that he did it, and they put him in jail and were beating on him. And then he escaped, and then they were after him. All these people were after him, and then a couple of motorcycle guys decided they'd help out, give him a chance to use their chains and stuff, you know, and not get in trouble for it. And I could see that I was going to be locked up forever, you know. God. Anyway,
Oh, that delayed you from getting the call from the trio.
well, it still came later on. A couple days later, the call came, and they had picked me. So I flew to join them, I think, July the 4th, 1965. And they were doing their last 2 dates at Ravinia in Chicago. And then we flew to New York the next day, and we rehearsed for 6 days and opened the 7th at the Cellar Door in Washington, D.C.
I saw you there in '66.
We played there every year, at least once, after that first engagement. And made a lot of friends in Washington who are still very, very good friends. In fact, Kris O'Connor, who the first time we were there was the bartender at the Cellar Door, and then later became manager of the Cellar Door, is now just about my best friend in the world, and he's my concert director, road manager, whatever, and co-producer on the albums, and really good man. So that started the thing with the Mr. Trio. Like I met him the night that I came up to join the trio. I saw him on the street once in New York, and then I saw him a couple of times, maybe 3 or 4 times after that when he was performing in different places. And always said hello, but we never talked or anything, you know. And so I didn't know anything about him, and I got a sense of him from the other guys in the group and other people that had known him. And when this happened, I read about it in a paper, I guess, in Aspen, and I called Milt Oken. Actually, I think my folks read about it and told me about it on the phone one night. So I called Milt to see, I just can't get from the places that I knew Chad, and as good as I think he is as a singer, which is maybe different. My view of his singing is probably different than his own view of what he wants to do in singing or anything, but that's beside the point. It was hard for me to conceive of him being in a situation where he would need to do that, you know, to make a living or whatever, you know.
Or to risk everything for
Yeah.
one small. You know.
And if he was in that kind of a situation, then I thought he might be in pretty dire straits and might need some help real quick. So I called Milt about it, and then we finally tracked him down to the jail there. And by the time we did that, he was already out on bail or anything. And then we did some checking around, and evidently he did have lawyers working for him and everything. So we couldn't do anything. And then about a month, seems like just a month ago, I got a call from the probation officer in Spokane, Washington, which is where Chad used to live. and they were doing some checking. The probation people in San Antonio had called there, you know, to get some background information on Chad, I guess, and everything. So they had talked to Mike Koblich, who lives in Spokane now, and Mike turned him on to me. And then I had him, and then I talked to him, and then I had him call Milt. And I really got the feeling, as Milt did, that all of these people were really kind of on Chad's side in this thing and wanted to help, and were looking from that point of view. They wanted to help as opposed to wanting to find something wrong to sink him in deeper, you know. And so we all talked to him, and we were really surprised when I read about the sentencing.
Yeah.
And then I was interested in your article that he had a driver's license that was not his.
Yeah.
It was somebody else's.
That doesn't add up at all. It was as if it. Maybe he was hired by someone. They gave him a false driver's license. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it was never clear. I could never get it pieced together whether he had picked that van up in San Antonio or at the border.
Mm-hmm.
I think he got it in San Antonio to drive it east, I believe. But
That's really interesting to me.
yeah, but what a strange twist for his career to take when 10 years ago he was on top. You know.
Well, see, he dropped out of the trio because I think he got into the space that happens with everybody in groups, it seems to me. It was a Chad Mitchell trio, see? And so the things that happened, you know, the feelings that got in the way of their having fun was that it pretty soon got to be Chad Mitchell and his trio, and they were treating him like the leader of the group. And in fact, when the group was put together, and even from, I think, Chad's point of view, it was the three of them. And they called it the Chad Mitchell Trio because that sounded better than the Mike Koblich Trio or the Joe Frazier Trio, and it didn't sound like the Kingston Trio or Peter, Paul, and Mary, you know, Chad, Joe, and Mike, or whatever. And so then they changed it to the Mitchell Trio because the other two guys didn't like it being Chad Mitchell and his trio and stuff, you know. And then I think that the Chad might have been the one that shone in the group, or did the most on stage, and then he got the feeling that the trio was limiting. And so he wanted to leave the group, and he had, as a matter of fact, as I recall, a play that he was going into here on Broadway. He was going into the theater. And he did that, and that folded very quickly, I guess. And then he just started, you know, singing around. He made, I think he made 2 or 3 albums.
Very strange. Did you want some toast?
Oh, thanks. Go ahead. Good orange juice, isn't it? This is fresh squeezed
It
orange
is, yeah, you can tell.
All this silver stuff, isn't it? Foaming out.
Give me something.
I have to show you something. I have a friend, a fellow named Ray Lear. Ray and Jan live in Pasadena. And about 4 years ago, Ray made this belt buckle and gave it to me at a concert when I was at the Greek Theater. And it's on the back, it says, "Sunshine almost always makes me high." And I thought, I mean, I think that's one of the most beautiful buckles I've ever
It
seen.
is. It's
And I
incredible.
love it. And he did it himself with his hands and gave it to me, you see. So we've gotten to be good friends. And I love pocket watches. Love pocket watches. And like to have a watch because I like to be on time and things like that. And I like the Pulsar watches. You know, now I don't like to wear a watch on my wrist, but I got one of those Pulsars because I just really think it's a far-out watch. And then I got a rash on my wrist and couldn't wear it, and didn't want to get a big heavy leather thing. So I asked Ray to make me a case for the watch. So I want you to look at this. Isn't that beautiful?
That's incredible. I've never seen.
So he made
Amazing.
that. Yeah, so,
Good
and then
silver.
another friend in his office made the fob. So this is JD, and then there's the magnets. Isn't that great? And the purpose, and then so in here the fob opens up, and I have the magnet to change the time, you know, for time zones. But then to get in there, I want you to see how nicely this is made. Isn't that far out?
It's amazing. I spent some time on that.
Oh, boy. So it
it's just
clicks in
natural.
like that? Isn't that beautiful?
That's a one of a
I really, a one-of-a-kind thing. And see, I really get off on people who do something this way, you know, do it differently each time, but do it out of and from themselves. People, you know, more now than it seems like they have been a long time, people are working with their hands and doing crafts and stuff and making a living that way. Like, and I've really become aware of it because in Aspen and all over Colorado every summer there are fairs, arts and crafts fairs and stuff like that, which are really, really enjoyable.
You know, I suppose it's still that way. When I left Austin, the entire area around the university is like that. People,
Yeah.
little leather shops
Mhm.
and silver and. In fact, Murphy has moved from Austin
To Colorado.
to Colorado.
Yeah.
And
I sure
he's-
like Mike.
He's working with Jerry too, isn't he, Weintraub?
No, he was
He's not?
going to. As a matter of fact, I turned him on to Jerry. He was in a situation, I think he's been kind of managing himself. And I know that Bob, I think it's Bob Johnson that produces him.
Mhm.
And he has his recording deals, but he hasn't had any management. And he's getting into a space where he needs somebody to do that part of the work. And he asked me about it, and I told him what had worked for me and why I thought it worked for me, and said that, you know, if Jerry would get interested in you, then I think that would be a good thing for both of you. I think that Jerry could do some things with you that he would be excited about, and I think that he can totally fill the space that you're empty in right now in regard to that. And I think Jerry's the best that there is. So I think they spoke to Jerry. I had him send all of his albums to Jerry's office. And have you heard the new album,
I've gotten it. I haven't even played it yet. The
Wildfire and Thunder or something like that?
Blue
Oh,
Sky
that's
and
a good
Thunder or
album.
something.
Yeah,
And Thunder.
yeah. Blue Sky and Thunder. Real good album, I think. And I think they met, and they both got excited about each other, and then it seems that Jerry isn't really interested himself. He's got, you know, he's doing more than he really wants to do right now anyway, and it was going to be kind of the office working with Mike. And I think that Mike got that, and so he's not pursuing that any further. And as a matter of fact, I spoke to him yesterday. He wanted to call me to tell me what was happening. And out of concern that I would be offended or something like that, I think. And I said, no, not at all. And if that's the case, and that's my sense of it, then I think you're doing exactly the right thing.
Did you meet Jerry before you left the trio?
No. I met Jerry when the trio broke up, and I didn't leave the trio. Are you interested in
Yeah, and
that stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. I started working with the trio, and the trio, and then here's an interesting bunch of problems here, and I'd like to I'm really interested, Chet, in sharing and what is so about all the stuff that I'm doing, because it's very interesting to me. And I'm interested in doing interviews to communicate with people. You know, for a long time I haven't been doing interviews, and we can talk about that if you want, but what I would like you to know, because you of necessity are a big part of this, particularly, is that all of the stuff that's happened to me and the stuff that I'm doing is very, very interesting to me. And I find that when I have a chance to sit down and talk, and especially when somebody's asking questions, when you have to articulate it,
Yeah.
that you can get a lot clearer about it in your own mind. And inevitably, when I'm doing an interview or something like that, something new will come up that wasn't there before, or I just didn't have that in place or something. And that's exciting to me, and I get excited about that. And it seems to me that people are interested now in what's going on behind the music, and maybe want to know, and perhaps I'm not really sure where you guys are coming from in wanting to do this interview, but it's my intention to let people know and to not get in the way of the story. You know what I mean? Like, I really, the whole intention of the way I do my music and I'm not sure if that's exactly the right way to say it, but I know that I'm not talking about the purpose of the music itself, but I don't want to get in the way of the music. I think it's the music that works. The music is what's really working, and because it's the truth in my life, then I enhance the music. But I don't want to get in the way of it on either side.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
You know what I'm?
Yeah.
Okay.
But at least I'm still interested, and I think the public is, in what has led to making this music. In other words,
where it's all come from.
The steps in your life,
Yeah.
the progress and growth and so on.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what I'm interested in communicating to people. You see, I have very strong feelings about not telling people what the music is. It's a very interesting thing to me that I think that there's so much going on now, and one of the things I really notice in Rolling Stone, and most especially this last week, there were about 4 or 5 pages, 2 different people telling what Dylan's album meant.
Right.
And I think that that's wasted energy to me. And I have some interesting thoughts on that from my point of view that maybe we'll talk about sooner or later if you want to.
Sure, the points of music criticism versus popular acceptance, and
it's
critical expectations versus reality or something.
Well, all of that stuff, but most specifically, see, like, I think that criticism or reviewing or letting people know that see, I'm the first guy in the world, and we're really set up to let people know when we've got a new album coming out, But I never tell people what the songs are, what the songs mean. See, my whole feeling about music is like in relation to an art form, which I think it is. The thing about art, the value of art, I think, this is just my opinion, and it's more than opinion, it's my experience. Art opens up the space for people to realize themselves. And I say it that clearly because I've thought about it a lot as to say exactly what I think art does, see. And in my experience, I'm working in one field, music. I think music opens up the space for people to realize themselves. And that when you do a song, regardless of what song it is and what it does for people, that maybe what you wrote and what you're trying to say there is a very clear, concise picture that you're trying to communicate for people. But in doing it that clearly and that concisely opens up a whole lot of space for people to get whatever they're going to get out of it, you see. And the pictures you get from looking at a painting or from looking at a piece of something like this or this little work of art here or that or a piece of sculpture or one of these buildings, what you get by looking at that, the things, the feelings that go through your mind or the pictures that come up out of your experience that song has kind of been a catalyst for bringing up, you see, that's the absolute truth for you. You can't hide the truth from yourself. And we always question it. You always doubt yourself, it seems like to me. But the truth is always there. The truth is really always there. And you get into a space where you can acknowledge it and let it be there and grow on it, that's a pretty far out space to be in. But the truth is always there. It's always coming up. The truth is always coming up. And then what you get from the song, the pictures you get, the truth for you, might be 180 degrees away from what this guy was talking about over here. But it's the absolute truth for you.
For me, yeah.
And his is the absolute truth for him, you see?
Mm-hmm.
And Jan Winters or somebody is the absolute truth for him. But to take so much time and energy to take down and say, to define so exactly what you get out of the song, kind of closes off the space for people to get whatever they get out of the song. They start feeling, well, gee, I didn't get that. I must be wrong.
Yeah, I know.
Because this guy knows what he's talking about, so maybe so that kind of ties them in or chains them into having to think a certain way, which to me totally contradicts the purpose of the music.
The only value I could see for that is just to present other views to someone. Is to say,
If it's done that way.
Yeah.
I rarely observe that it's done that way. Critics, I rarely get that critics give a viewpoint. They kind of come from a space of saying this is how it is.
Instead of saying this is my impression of
Exactly.
how it is. Yeah.
Exactly. Reviews of concerts. Not very often tell what the concert was, but give the critic's opinion of what happened, which quite often has nothing to do with what happened with 18,000 other people there. At least that's part of my experience also. So anyway, you see, that's an interesting idea to me, and that's the experience that I have and what I'm observing happening through my music. So I don't want to get in the way I think that kind of critical analysis of a song gets in the way of the song. The song has rights just like anybody else, you see. So I don't want to get in the way of the interview, and I really want to communicate whatever it is that people are interested in finding out about me. And I'm also interested in looking at how it got to be this way for me, and I don't waste.
Well, that's I think a very big point that I don't think has ever been shown in print. Is how you got,
Well, I agree. See, and or if it has been, it's been a very brief little thing like this. Well, I was in the Mitchell Trio, and I worked when I came out 10 years ago, and now.
Which makes it sound like you go to an employment agency to
Exactly.
get into a
Exactly.
trio, and then this, well, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do. So this is a really great opportunity for me in that respect, and that's what I'm trying to do, or where I'm coming from in doing this.
Well, that's what I prefer, because I don't want to sit here and try to analyze 8 albums.
Okay, great.
And say what does this mean, or what does that mean to you?
So Mitchell Trio, is that where we were? The Mitchell Trio. I joined the Mitchell Trio, and we worked the 2 weeks at the Cellar Door. Came back to New York and made an album. Went out to the Golden Bear in Huntington Beach in California and worked there. And Jose Feliciano was opening for us, and Peter Tork was working in the kitchen. Remember Peter Tork, the Monkees? Yeah. And had a real good week out there, and then came back here to the Philadelphia Folk Festival, which is one of my favorite things. And we were there, and it was at the Philadelphia Folk Festival that I first met Tom Paxton and Judy Collins, who are pretty high up on my list of people that I get off on and people that I learn from, And then we started doing concerts, you see. And all of a sudden, I had gone from just another folk singer on the West Coast to being part of a nationally known group who was making records and who was doing concerts. And it was great. And I was thrilled by the whole thing. And I came into it as an employee of Joe and Mike. And I think that I added some to the group. First of all, I played guitar, which none of them had done before. And they didn't want me to do that all the time, but in about 4 or 5 songs in concert, I would play my 12
Yeah.
string.
Was Paul Prestopino
Paul
playing with the
Prestopino,
group?
yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Do you know Paul, or had?
I've just seen him on and off during the years. I've always enjoyed his playing. I never met him.
He's working at the record plant now here and lives in Roosevelt, New Jersey. And he's, you want some more coffee?
Yeah, I'll take a little bit. How long had you been playing the 12 string then?
Well,
Do you recall?
when I went out to work for Randy, I had my electric guitar and this guitar that my grandmother had given me, which at that time had suffered through a summer working in a lumber camp and 2 summers on wheat harvest.
Yeah.
I got hit over the head with it once in the lumber camp.
Really?
And it had, it was just kind of cracked in and caved in. It rattled a lot. And
This is this sidetracking again, but why would someone hit you on the head with it?
well,
Is that-
I worked in this lumber camp up in Washington State the end of my sophomore year in college. And I went up there with a friend of mine from college who also lived in Fort Worth, and worked up there and had just a great summer and did real well. I was one of about 5 college kids, I guess, working there. But I did real good, and they called me Tex, and which I kind of let them do and enhance by talking like a Texan, and everything. And then I sang, and they liked my music and everything. And there was it was in Leicester, Washington. Now Leicester, to get to Leicester, Seattle, Snoqualmie Pass, Cle Elum. And Snoqualmie Pass is the pass between the big range that has Mount Rainier in it and all of that, going east from Seattle. And then Leicester, about 20 miles this side of Cle Elum, you go up over some weird pass on this old logging road that's closed 10 months of the year. And the way you got into Leicester was by train, you see. And there was this little lumber camp there, and there was a little tiny town where they had a train station and a filling station, post office, grocery store, church, and a school, and maybe 100 homes if there were that many. And then a quarter mile down the road was the lumber camp, and then a mile further was a bar and a cafe. And I was working there, and July the 4th that year came on a Wednesday. So all the guys were in the camp. See, it was one of the places that they'd come in on Sunday nights, mostly from Seattle or from wherever they lived, on the train. And they'd work all through the week, and Friday evening, after work, they would catch a train into the city. And a lot of the guys, were basically winos and go into the city and get drunk all weekend and come back to work. That's pretty much how they lived, and some of them were a lot more than that. But that was kind of the situation that it was, it seemed like. And so this holiday fell on the middle of the week, and for holidays you get double time and a half or something like that, so they didn't have everybody working, but they were going to have 2 crews work anyway, and I was on one of the crews. So all of these guys went down to the bar Tuesday night and had a party, and I went to bed. Well, about later on in the evening, at some point, they came to get me to come play my guitar. With one guy who played accordion, another guy who played banjo, and they wanted me to play my guitar. And I didn't want to do that at all, and they took the guitar. So then I had to go put my guitar back. So I went down there, and I'm drinking beer and playing songs with these guys, and I got up, and I was doing a Hank. It wasn't Your Cheatin' Heart, but it was one of Hank Williams' old songs, And this one guy didn't like the song at all. Don't sing that song. Oh, shut up! Everybody else go ahead and sing. Thanks. So I did that and finished the song. Got up to go to the bathroom, and he tried to stop, but several times during the song he was yelling up to quit the song and everything. Got up, turned to go to the bathroom, set my guitar down, turned to go away, and he picked it up and cold cocked me.
Really?
And I never saw him again. You know, now a lot of those guys, one of the guys that was on the crew that I worked with most this summer had just gotten out of jail for killing a man. And all of them had been in jail at least once. I didn't meet a man up there who hadn't been in jail for something or other. And a lot of them were winos and stuff like that. And they were hard men, you know. But they were also very loyal men. And if they liked you, they'd give you the shirt off their back. And I'd made some friends up there, and I never saw that guy again. I don't know what happened to him, you know. Didn't hear anything weird about it. It's just that I know that I never saw him again. So, but that was a great summer for me working up there. Then I was in a logging accident at the end of the summer and broke my leg, and went back to school, and I was in a cast up to here for 6 months. Drove me crazy. And I would itch. I have a cast up to here, okay, but I would itch right about there, back of my calf. And the only way that you could get to it is straighten out a clothes hanger.
And run it down the inside. Wow.
And get it down.
Crazy.
And it was orgasmic, you know, when you could get to that itch. Oh, God. Ooh. So, but anyway, so I had that same old guitar, and my Fender guitar, and then a classical guitar that I'd gotten in Fort Worth. And so when I played any place, those were the guitars that I used. And then when Randy hired me, later on, I got he gave me a guitar, a Martin guitar. And I finally had one that could stay in tune, you know, that I could play, and I was really thrilled about that. And then he had an 18-string guitar laying around. And nobody played it.
I've never seen one.
There are not too many, and they don't really serve any purpose. They look as impressive as Dickens with this big, long peg head on the end, or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
I don't know. But looked impressive. Really looked impressive, and played it like this because it was so heavy, and it took a couple of days to change strings, and it rattled a lot. But I played it because it was far out, and some of the songs that I did, really up-tempo songs, it was really good for, and it was a contrast from playing the six-string for other things, you know. There's contrast there. So I started playing it, and then I had, then I got enough money to buy a six-string at one point, which I did, and then I had it made into a 12-string. And that's what I carried with me to the Mitchell Trio. And so I played the 12-string in a few songs. And Paul Prestopino and Jacob Ander were the accompanist for the group. And the trio was really great. I thought that they did a certain kind of music that they did that other people did. I thought they did very well and in their own way. And it was exciting, and really exciting for me to be with the group. And the thing that I enjoyed most that the trio did was the satirical material.
Yeah.
You see, that's something that nobody else is really doing. And they did some great songs, and we poked fun at everything, you know. And it was from the trio, and most specifically from Joe Frazier and Mill to fulfill it.
But that left you meanwhile with about, what, $30,000 to pay off?
Well, no, we had paid all but about
but
11,000 when the trio broke up, you see. So we had a really hard time there, and it's the only time when I questioned what I was doing.
Is that the only time you've ever really, your self-confidence just wavered at all in your career,
Yes.
do you think?
The only time. And see, the thing that got me through that, and the reason it never came up before, I think, is because it was still awfully easy to go on. I didn't have any responsibilities really. I was, single, and but now I was a married man, and had some responsibilities, and was at a, I was getting older, 24, 25 years old, getting older, and you can't fool around too long or you miss it. And so I was questioning, because nothing seemed to be happening. But what did continue to happen through all of that time is that I would go someplace, like to these college coffee house things, and the first night there'd be 12, 15 people. The next night they'd all be back with 3 or 4 friends, and the third night it'd be packed, and from then on out it would be packed. And when I did sing someplace, it worked. Simply, it worked. And I still got off on it. What I was doing was working for those people to where they wanted to come back and hear me, and I was getting totally satisfied from being able to do this thing that I love to do, sing for people. And so it still worked. Regardless of what the business said or anybody else said, I knew that this was working. You see?
Yeah, as long as you could see it in a crowd.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even without seeing it in a crowd, on those nights when it was 24 people, you know, I could see it in those faces, and I knew how I felt.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that I never went out in front of 24 people and did any less of a show than I did in front of 250 people when it got full. See?
Mm-hmm.
Now that's very important to me, to communicate that.
Yeah.
Because I think that's one of the things that's going on in the world today that is missing in a lot of people's lives, is finding out what works and then doing that.
Yeah, it's very hard for a lot of people, I think. It's sometimes, it seems luck has a lot to do with it. I love what I'm doing. It took me years to fall into it.
Yeah?
To find what it was.
Uh-huh.
Now, I don't know.
Well, it's
Yeah,
luck, and it's perseverance, and it's karma, and it's a whole lot of things. But again, the truth is always there. The truth is always there. Now, we always doubt it or try to talk our way around it or are really afraid to say it or to look at it, but it's always there. And if you really open up the space for it to be there and to look at it and just notice what's going on for you, then you can find out very easily what works, and then you can direct yourself along those lines. Jesus, don't waste the effort and energy and the time that we have doing something that is anything less than totally fulfilling.
Of course, there's always the rejoinder that, well, here's someone who's trapped working in a garage, or living in the Bronx, and economically there's no way for them to get out.
Well,
Probably,
see,
you know.
I recognize that, and
Yeah.
I think that's a very real thing there.
Yeah.
And I don't think that a guy economically trapped working in a garage in the Bronx is any more trapped than I was in a military family going to college in Texas.
That's a good parallel.
You know? When everybody in the world said, you can't do it, don't do it, you're making the biggest mistake of your life, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the whole lot of chains adding on to just a chain of being where I was, you see. If you can and if you will, you can get through that. I totally believe that we can get through anything that comes up.
Well, you have to want to. I mean,
You have to
that's
want to,
obvious. It's
sure.
very obvious.
Yeah, and a lot of people want to be
Yeah.
trapped in the garage in the Bronx or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's a lot of people's game. That's
Yeah.
okay. So, but it was working. See, I knew it was working, and it was working for me. And as hard as it was, that time on stage was always just about the best part of my life. So we kept going, and then we got together with Jerry, and then he kept me recording. Then we're up in Washington, D.C. at the Cellar Door, and I have these two friends, Bill and Taffy Danoff, who called themselves Fat City, who I'd known for a while, and had heard and known they were writing songs and stuff like that. And the summer before, they did a song for me called I Guess You'd Rather Be in Colorado, which I thought was a beautiful song. I wish I'd written that song, you know. And so I made arrangements to have them as the opening act at the Cellar Door. Well, the first night we were there, opening night, we were going to go back to their house and jam and visit with one another. Hadn't seen each other for a long time and wanted to sit down and be together, you know. So we did our shows, and then they went to their house, and Kris O'Connor and Bonnie, his wife, and Annie and I went to deposit the money at the bank from the club. He was the manager, and that was one of his jobs. And then we were driving back to Bill and Taffy's house, and we were in a car accident. And Bonnie's back was wrenched, which took a long time to take care of, and wasn't really handled in, and I broke my thumb. So I had to go to the hospital to have that kind of x-rayed and set, and then put a splint on it, and then explain to the guy that I was working at the club and needed to play with it all week, and how can I do that, and what can you do to help me do that?
Left thumb?
Yeah. So, and wired by then, you know, after a car wreck and going, and so we went over to Bill and Taffy's, and just went on with what we were going to do anyway. And sometime in the early hours in the morning, they showed me this chorus and part of a verse to this song that they were writing, called Country Roads. And I flipped over the song and started, and they'd had it for about a month or so, and hadn't been able to do anything with what they had. And together, that morning, we finished writing the song, and I loved it. And I said, man, let's start doing this at the clubs. We'll do it as an encore. You guys come up and sing it with me. So we did that, and the audiences loved it. And I said, we got to record this on the next album, you know, which was the Poems, Prayers, and Promises album, which we had already kind of started working on and hadn't gotten into the studio yet. So when we finished the club date on a Saturday night, Sunday we got on the train and went up to New York. And Monday we recorded the song and spent most of the week there working on it. And then, and this is the point that I was trying to make, then Jerry said, aha, this is a record worth working. See, and then he got onto it and started working it. And started handling RCA in regard to them working the record. And the record was released in February, the first week of February, and around the end of March or so, it had gotten up to about 50 on the charts. And it was the first record we ever had in the charts, and the album all of a sudden was on the charts. And then they wanted to pull it back and release something else. And Jerry and I both screamed. And a couple of things happened around the record. They sent out the initial copies, and they were all distorted. And I raised a fit about that and got some help from RCA in getting it taken care of and getting all those taken back, and then sending another copy out to disc jockeys. And then, see, I knew we had a good record, and I was making an effort at being successful, top 40 successful. I was starting to get in the way, I think, of what was working. You know, the music simply was working, and it was all growing and taking its own time, but I was starting to add some stuff to it, I think. Anyway, Jerry and I kept at them. They kept Country Roads out, and it went on to be a #1 record, and it was #1 the week we were at the Troubadour in L.A., and it was very good for us. You know, it really changed the whole situation. When you've had a record on the charts, all of a sudden now it's not John Denver, the writer of Leaving on a Jet Plane, but it's John Denver who sings that song that you heard on the radio. It wasn't my song, it was my performance of my song. So a whole thing changed, you see. And work was differently, and we started, you know, growing from that. Then the next album wasn't that successful, and we really didn't have a single to it. And then the next album after that was Rocky Mountain High. And I think that we released 2 singles from Rocky Mountain High before we released that as a single, or before that one started being played, and we were forced to make it a single. And then all of this time, I think I was growing. I was learning more about myself, learning more about what I was doing in regard to music, and to what I was trying to do with the music. Or rather than say what I was trying to do with the music, just noticing what music was coming out of me, and where it came from, and how it worked, and what it had to do with. And was able to kind of cut away a lot of the nonsense and the bullshit that starts getting in, you know. Like, one of the things I got through very, very quickly was, well, now that you've had a hit, how are you going to follow that?
Right.
You know?
Pressure's on.
Yeah, what have you written since Leaving on a Jet Plane, John? You know, that was there for a long time. And then it was, what have you written since Take Me Home Country Roads, you see? And I really got to a space where I realized that I had never tried, you know, even in Country Roads, we wrote the song and then we recognized what we had and what we thought we could do with it. But I never tried to write a hit record. You know? And I haven't yet.
Really?
I am the most unprolific songwriter that I know. I've gone periods 6 months without writing a song.
You just have to wait until
until
the spirit hits you, so to speak.
That's exactly it. See, and that's another thing that I feel very strongly about. I don't think that I write the songs. I think that songs are out there, and I think Bob Dylan said this as the first time that I thought about it, and then Noel Stuckey said it. Paul Stuckey said it better for me. He said that you don't so often feel like the creator of the song as you feel like the instrument of that which wants to be written. See? Now, so I don't think that I create the songs, and I'm willing to take total responsibility for the songs because I put myself in a space where these particular songs are coming through me. You see?
Yeah.
I don't think anybody else is writing songs like I am.
Well, what is the force behind the words that pick you, say, as a vessel to convey these words in a certain way?
Well,
Or instead of picking Bob Dylan or picking,
well, who knows?
Yeah.
See, I think that's the way that I feel totally responsible for him. Because I'm who I am and live the way I do, and Bob Dylan's who he is and lives the way he does and is into the things that he's into, and Neil Diamond and Elton John and Joni and whoever, and I just happen to be this way and live the way that I live, and these particular songs are coming through me. And see, it's very interesting to me because like that Evening with John Denver album, that's some of my favorite songs in the world are on that album. And I happen to be the guy that gets to sing them. See, that's a constant source of joy to me and celebration, is that I get to sing these songs. These songs that come out of nowhere, and it's so exciting when you start working on a song, and you work on it and you can get stopped. Like, see, Poems, Prayers, and Promises and Rocky Mountain High both took about 9 months to write. They just, I had this chorus to Rocky Mountain High that I'd gotten on a camping trip. We were camping at a place called Williams Lake, which is about 26 miles from Aspen. And it was the period August the 12th to the 15th, which is when they have the Perseid meteor shower. I'm an amateur astronomer. Have you ever looked at the stars,
Yeah,
Chet?
yeah.
Through a telescope? Big.
When I was in college and taking astronomy.
I have a real nice telescope in Aspen,
Really?
and the sky is really clear.
I bet it is.
And some of the most beautiful things I've ever seen are up there. But anyway, so we went out to this place to go camp, and I was telling these guys about this meteor shower. I said, "You guys are going to see some shooting stars tonight." Which it's a meteor shower, and you're not going to believe it, So we're all out there and everything, and it's getting dark, and I noticed on this camping trip there was no moon that night, or it didn't come up until the very early hours in the morning, and the peak of the meteor shower was around midnight. But we were up at about 11,000 feet camping, and there's so many stars and the sky gets to be deep. It's so clear that it's not, that star is brighter than that one of the 5 you can see at night here, is that one's closer. And that one's closer. And you can see the constellations. Like, a lot of people have the feeling about they can't see the constellations, and they don't know how did they get named like that, And it's that in Greece, when most of those people were naming the constellations, they could see them three-dimensionally.
Oh, yeah.
Which we don't see necessarily,
Yeah, see what you mean.
So, but there were so many stars that you have a little pool of shadow from the starlight. If you get out in the middle of a clearing, there's no moon or anything like that, just all of these stars up here, a little pool of shadow.
I've never seen that.
Well, I don't think very many people have,
Wow.
unless they've looked at it and been out someplace that high, that clear on a moonless night, and then looked at it.
Wow.
Blew me away. And then these guys saying, "All right, shooting stars," whatever, for a while, they, a little flash, just in the corner of your eye, when you think. And then pretty soon, man, there's balls of fire going across the sky. And I mean, you can see, it goes all the way across the sky, you can see the smoke, and you can hear it. And it's like that fast.
You can hear it? You can hear it?
Yeah. It's great, man. I mean, it's so far out. And I was saying, Rocky Mountain High, I've seen her in fire in the sky in the shadow of the starlight. I mean, look at that. And then it took me a while to write that song, you know, to put the story around that song, which is totally autobiographical. Then Annie's song, I wrote in 10 minutes.
On a ski lift.
On
I
a
read
ski
somewhere.
lift,
That's
yeah.
That really happened. Yeah.
And a little over a year ago, as a matter of fact. And then back home again, I wrote in a couple afternoons. You know, leaving on a jet plane, I wrote in a couple hours one night in Washington. See, but the songs, they come when they come, and I can't force them, and it's not my intention to do that.
Yeah.
You know, just when they come, they come. I've got 3 brand new songs, and 2 that I'm working on that just aren't finished yet. But I've got 3 songs that I think are. One of them I think is one of the best songs I've written. I don't know what I'm going to call it yet. It's right now it's called "Looking for Space," but it's. I think it's a great song.
It's funny that it almost seems that you can look at your career in terms of cycles, where one song will be so important and will open the way to something else like Jet Plane and then Country Roads and Rocky Mountain High. But whenever there needs to be a big one, the one comes along. You know.
They come along, yeah. And they come along, it seems to me, as a growth. You know, it's a next step, kind of. And see, I thought Back Home Again was the best album we've done. I was really excited about the live album, but there's not that much new stuff on it. And yet the new stuff on it I really, really like. Boy from the Country and Annie's Other Song. And the new way we did Rhymes and Reasons, and Today. You know, I finally got a chance to to acknowledge Randy in some way, and I'm glad we could put those 2 songs on there. But see, it's interesting, Chet. You know, and I sit down and I start talking about it, which I don't do unless I'm in a situation like this. You know, and you start looking at it and everything, and it's just real interesting to me. And it's interesting to me that the music is working. See, and I don't think that I've gotten in the way of it. I think that what I'm doing is in a way enhancing the music. It makes the space that the music has more real. You know, I don't think that the music would work the way it does if I were different than I am. You know what I mean? If I were...
Well, I think so. I'm not sure. I think it's a matter of ego, maybe. Is that if you were impressing the songs with your ego, or trying to put that on a crowd, that it would make an enormous difference.
I think so. I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
But it is part of it. See, I think that's a real nice observation, Chet. I'm glad.
Well, with many performers, you can see the line between self-confidence and ego. There's a distinction there.
Yeah.
And the one will work on stage, whereas the other maybe won't. Generally. I don't know how you feel about it, but...
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, it's interesting to me. See, I think Elton John gets in the way of his music. You know? I mean, and that's in the sense that we're talking about right now. And in all of the other ways that you can get in the way of the music. And also, he also enhances the music because what he's doing goes along with the way that he does it, or the way he's living goes along with how the kind of music that he's producing, you know, the way the records sound.
Yeah.
Hello.
No, he could never do your songs and vice versa, I don't think. You know.
Yeah.
That's one of the
And
things
that's really all that we're talking about, you know.
Yeah.
But that's a part of what I wanted to get across in regard to, you know, these particular songs and how they work, you see. And the thing that's interesting to me is that in a lot of respects, it seems to me that what we have done and the way we have done it has not been conducive to getting a lot of support from the press and from the media. You know, like it's Cher now is really on top of show business, you know, and The Flash. I don't think there are two more opposite shows on television than Cher's show and my show.
Yeah.
Did you see my show the other night?
Yeah.
How'd you
With,
like it?
Cousteau and
Yeah.
Danny Kaye. I liked it, actually. I didn't know you could dance with Danny Kaye, but that was...
Well, you didn't see the other two specials.
No, I
And
didn't.
I did a little bit more dancing on the
Really?
last one. I did a thing with Dick Van Dyke, which was a whole dance number, just he and I together. That was really far out. And I didn't know I could either, you know. And I'm also willing to try it, and I can do it to the extent that I can do it and make it look. See, I'm not a dancer,
Yeah.
you know, but I can learn the steps and get comfortable and do it. And everybody can see that I'm not a dancer, but I'm doing that stuff with, you know, Danny Kaye,
Yeah.
and just doing it the way I would do it, you know.
Yeah, if you can kind of make it look as if you're having fun with it and it's nothing...
Yeah, where you don't have to think about counting and doing the steps, you know,
Yeah.
just to get through that. Well, somehow I'm able to do that, and that enhances what we're doing with the rest of the stuff, you know. That gives us more to do on television, you see. So, but the thing that I was getting at is that in really starting in the middle and moving out to New York and Los Angeles and stuff, most people start in business on those two ends. And there's a lot of promotion and stuff like that, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But in our circumstances, in my circumstance, regardless of everything else that's gone on, or how it's been done, or how it's been treated or talked about, or whatever, we find that the music is still working. It still works. It works to the extent now that we're one of the biggest record sellers in the world.
Don't you think it's maybe because you started in the middle, therefore you were at one time and still are part of the middle and know what the middle wants, rather than starting in New York or Los Angeles?
I don't...
I mean, your upbringing, your background taught you, maybe unconsciously, what most of the people like to hear. And you kind of reflect that rather
Well,
than
now-
imposing on them something from either coast, say, someone who grew
Yeah.
up here or there. Do you see that at all?
Yes. See, but then how's that difference from any of the Beatles or from
Well, true.
Dylan or from Elton John or anybody?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and the music, the differences that there are in all the music that we do.
Yeah.
You know.
Except I think you appeal to a wider segment of people in, say, the heartland of America than most people.
I think I do, and I think that television has helped that. You know, it's made a lot of people who don't listen to records familiar with me,
Yeah.
and so they're buying my records now.
Yeah.
You see, but I'm concerned that you think, or that someone who reads this, they're going to think whatever they think anyway. But what I want to be clear about is that I'm not writing songs to please people.
No,
I'm not
I didn't
writing
mean
what
that.
they
I
wanna
mean that
hear.
You have or unconsciously you're more sensitive to popular taste than a lot of people are, is the point I was trying to make. Since,
Well,
does
that-
that make sense at all?
That's interesting, and that I don't think that's it.
Well, maybe, let me try it.
No,
let me
I know
try
what
it
you're
again.
saying. See, like for instance,
Yeah.
and correct me if I'm wrong. Like Dylan and the Beatles. See, they got to be so interesting. First of all, musically they were great. You know, still are great. They were doing some far out things with music in a popular sense, to where people outside of the popular field got interested in the
Yeah.
Beatles, because it was good music. And they were saying some far out things and doing it in really beautiful ways and doing new kinds of records, you know. And but I think it's hard to intellectualize
Yeah.
about my music. Whereas it's not hard to intellectualize about Dylan's music. You know, he really gets in some deep things and says a lot of, you know, and there's a truth there, you see. But
Even though he has said himself in interviews that he said my songs don't mean anything, it's just words that I felt at the time. You know?
yeah. Well, see, I'd like to talk with him about
Yeah.
that because I think that may be true.
Yeah.
You see,
It may well. You know.
it may well be true. And see, and I'm not trying to say anything for anybody. You know, and I don't sing to please anybody. I write songs to express myself, and I sing to communicate that expression, and I sing to please myself. You see?
Yeah, I see that.
Now then, that's the cake. See, that's like doing the work that you want to do because you feel good about it.
Yeah.
You know, and it fulfills you. It satisfies you to do this thing that you're doing.
And if a
you
lot
see?
of people happen to like it, that's nice, but it's not
Then that's
essential.
the
Yeah.
most far out kind of chocolate icing that you can have,
Yeah.
man. I mean, I get to go out now and do these songs that are my favorite songs that talk about things that are totally real to me. I mean, Matthew is a true story, and it's changed. The names are changed to protect the innocent, whatever. But it's a true story. See, Rocky Mountain High is my story. You know. Now I know that as many people as have listened to that song have gotten that many different things out of it. You know, we were talking before about your picture and my picture, and it's totally okay with me for people to get whatever they get. I don't want to get in the way of the music. I go out there and sing these songs, man. I don't dance around. I just try to sing them as good as I can and sing them how I feel them, as honestly as I can relate that experience for me. And I find that doing it that way opens up the space for all of these people to get whatever they get out of the music. I'm not tying it down for them, you know. And so that's the most far out thing in the world. I get to do this work, which is not work to me, singing for people. And there are people out there who want to listen to the songs. See, I mean, I giggle about that periodically. I think I want you to know how super I think that is, you know? And then now, not only do I get to do that, but now we get to go all over the country, man. I mean, people everywhere. We're doing a tour this year. We're going to do 35 to 40 concerts in about 41 days. It's set up as 35 concerts, and I know that 4 of them have already been doubled because the first ones are sold out. But that's far out, man. There are 500,000 people in this country who want to hear me sing some songs, and I get to do it. See, now I like to do television, and I do all the other things I do on television because they're fun and it's entertainment and stuff. But the reason that I do television is that they get to see me sing the songs and look me right in the face and get the song from me, which they can't necessarily do in a stadium when they're half a mile back. You know what I mean? But so they can see it there, and they can I think you can fool a lot of people a lot of times, and I don't think that the television camera fools people. I think it's one of the most honest medias seen. Notwithstanding, I'm not counting what people are doing with it.
Yeah.
But I think the capability, the potential to that medium right there is so far out that it amazes me. But what I love to do is to go out there, man, and stand in front of those people and sing the songs. And now I get to do it, and we have film to go behind some of the stuff. And I've got a band with me that's so good that it freaks me out, that play all these different instruments. And Hal Blaine, who is a legend, comes on the road, wants to be with me. And we're using an orchestra. You know, that's far out. And this tour that we're doing, see, we did this album, and we're going to go out and do a tour now. When people come to New York or go to L.A., they usually put on a show.
Right.
And quite often they don't take that show everywhere else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to take the show that we do in New York and in L.A. to Mobile and Memphis and Charlottesville. and Norfolk, Virginia, and Ames, Iowa, and Little Rock, Arkansas, and we're going to blow some people away, I think, you know, because the music works. It's been working all the time. Every place that we've been, that I've ever performed at, I've been asked back. And when we come back, there's
Without
been...
exception? Every time, without exception.
Every time without exception.
Not many people can say that.
Every place we've been invited back. And that has to do a lot with what we do around the music. You know, the way that we handle ourselves in getting there and in doing the work that we do. And that has to do with all the people who are involved with me or who we have gathered around to do this work, to handle this work, you know. It's gotten to be a pretty sizable operation now. And see, it's just exciting that we've been successful enough so that we could grow, and getting up here to a position now where I can do this thing, where I can go out now and do the whole shot, man. I can do it the way it sounds on records. I'm going to do it. It's going to be live, you know, and people can be right there with us, and they can feel what happens in my concerts. See, and I'm really, really excited about that. I think it's going to be just a great tour, and then we're going to go on a world tour in October.
Does that kind of boggle your mind to think about it? You know, as to 10 years ago you were playing for, well, not 10,
24 or something like that.
24 people, yeah, and now it's 500,000. Does that?
Well,
of course it's come in stages, but I'm still
Yeah.
sure if you stop and think about it, it must be awesome, you know, to realize.
Well, see, I would be lying if I said that I didn't think about it sometimes, you know. And also, I try not to spend too much time thinking about it from that point of view. I'd rather let that be numbers and let the concerts be
People.
you know.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
And to go out and see, what I try to do in concerts, it's my intention to make that a small room, you know, which I think is difficult to do in 18,000 in Madison Square Garden. And I think that somehow the music and the way that we do it makes it a small room, you know, it makes it comfortable and easy for people. And they come, like, for instance, one of the things, and this happened last year, and I don't think it's going to happen so much this year because we've kind of educated the people.
Yeah.
And not the people, I mean the halls. You know, we would go in there and they'd think, well, there's another rock concert coming in. And they handle rock concerts a certain way,
Yeah.
you know.
Rock shows or.
Well, yeah, they're kind of brought up, you know, the rock shows a certain way and the crowds act a certain way. And lately that's gotten to be throwing things and firecrackers and stuff like that, you know, pretty rowdy. So we were telling these people that, you know, that we will not let them handle our show the way they handle most concerts, see? And my sense of that, that's just one of the things that I want to take responsibility for, and that I don't think a lot of shows do. You know, they don't care how you get the people in, how you handle them, how you deal with them. They could care less, you know. They want to get the people in, period, and do their show and go on with it. Now, in our concerts, and this has to do with television, we have a lot of people, and we found this out by watching and taking note of the concerts. And we tell them, you know, this is how we want you to handle things. And I mean, we have a meeting with the ushers beforehand to tell them how we want it to be done. And we don't want police all over everywhere, and especially in a defensive kind of thing. See, I think that you draw whatever you intend to draw from the people. And they'll be, you know, however you want them to be.
That's true.
And the first thing to get them to rush the stage is to put a ring of policemen around the stage, right?
It's like throwing the gauntlet down.
Exactly.
Drawing a line in the dirt. You know.
Then the first thing they got to do is cross the line, see? So we don't want to do that. And also we're aware that there are people who come to our concerts who have never been to a concert before. Older people who have never been to an arena to see a concert and don't know where to go and don't know what to do. And we let them know that this is going to be a certain kind of concert. We want them to be handled nicely and politely, and we want to create a space in which nothing gets in the way of the music. Now that means that all you ushers don't stand in the little things here and talk and bullshit while I'm singing, you know, so that bothers the 100-foot radius. People can hear that and not the music. It means that we don't allow people to get up and come running up in front of the stage to take pictures. And we do something, we've put some people here to do that, to handle that, so that doesn't happen. And we do it all very low key, so that I can just go out there and do what I do and not have anything get in the way of it, and it's just between me and the audience. And then these people, and so we really had to fight a couple of times to get them to do it that way, and to make them do it that way. And then every place we've been, after a concert, they come back and they say, I can't believe it. I've never heard a crowd that big, that quiet, ever in this room. And I've never seen that well behaved of a crowd. And they've never had anybody as nice to work with as all the people that I've got working with me. See, I think that, or it's my intention, that everybody around me do things the way I would do it if I were taking care of that particular job. Because in a sense I am taking care of that particular job by having them do it for me. And so I get people, all the people who work with me are people who love what they're doing and who do it really, really good and are in a space where they can do what they do without being jumped at or yelled on from outside, and that together we can all do this thing that comes out to be a really, really far out concert that people get high on. And that's exactly what I want it to be. That's exactly what I want it to be. And then these people, see, then they can't, when are you going to come back here and do a show again, you know? That's the way I like it to be.
Did you find at first any difference between relating to a TV eye and a live audience? You know, about how to convey your music through your personality?
Well, no. Television, I think the thing that you have to overcome is that on the other side of that eye is millions of people.
Yeah.
You start making it more than it is.
Yeah.
You know, you start thinking about millions of people as opposed to just doing whatever you do. You know, and once you get through that first insecurity, or maybe sometimes it's frustration because you can't see how they're reacting out there. You know, which kind of puts you uptight sometimes, and you work a certain way.
But not many musicians have been able to do that. Singers or musicians or, you know.
Campbell for one, or Johnny Cash, or a couple people.
Yeah.
When I started watching television,
There were a few who were just.
thank you, Michael.
Some people can instinctively handle it and can see what the medium is, and others hang back or nervous or.
I think that's exactly it. See, like, I never enjoyed Glen Campbell on television.
Yeah.
See, and I happen to think he's a great singer and one of the best guitar players
Yeah.
around, you know, but a really, really good singer. And when he sings, I don't think he gets in the way of the music, you know. But on television, he just never worked for me, and I didn't enjoy watching him on television, you know. And the guys who are working on my show now, you know, I was talking with them about that when we first started putting our television show together. You know, they wanted to know what my thoughts were about television and stuff like this. And I told them that, you know, that was one of the things that I didn't understand. And they said, you know, he said, we don't understand it either, because you sit backstage and talk with Glen, and he's one of the nicest, warmest, most open people that you've ever seen. And then he'd walk out in front of that camera, and I always felt that he was guarding. He wasn't letting anything through of himself, you know? And I thought that was far out. Then I met him at the Country Awards last week, and just, you know, we just barely met each other, and he's just a warm, I mean, you can feel the guy.
Oh.
Just in a brief passing minute, you can feel the guy. You know what I mean? But that didn't come through on television. And for some weird thing, I think that I come through the television.
But it's just a natural thing with you.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah,
it just
and
doesn't
see,
happen often.
what we did that I think was real smart, you know, and this goes back to Jerry, you know, how he saw that whenever he did. Did I put too much cream in
No,
there?
that's good.
You can have this one, which hasn't got...
Fine.
Okay. That he, whatever he saw that, and then, you know, when those few Merv Griffin shows didn't mean anything, but then nobody would have me as a guest on their show, man. We couldn't get a guest shot on a major show if our lives depended on it. Even when we had Take Me Home Country Roads. They wouldn't let, nobody was interested. So, what I wanted to do is I saw this coming, see, you know, that we were going to do television, and I started thinking that I could do it, and then I got Jerry to work out a deal for me to go to England and do a 6-week variety show over there. And he didn't want to do it at first. And it was one of the things that we talked over, you know. They used to have a show over there called In Concert or something like that, and they would have an individual performer do an hour show without commercials or interruptions, and it could be just music. Didn't have to be dance numbers or anything like that. And I did one of those shows, got a very good reaction from it, and they showed it.
I was going to say, you had not sold that well in England.
No,
no.
no.
Yeah, that's funny.
But this one show got real good reaction. It was on BBC Two. So they asked me to come back and do these 6 specials, which they've done with several artists over there. Mary Travers did it once. I don't know who else, but I know they had several. And I talked Jerry into doing that. And it was expensive for us in the sense that we couldn't do a lot of work here, concert-wise and stuff, while we were over there. And we really, I don't think we even broke even doing the show. It cost us to do it, you know. But I told Jerry, I said, Jerry, this is a great chance, just like when I started singing, again as a single, to go over and do it without any pressure and without any hoopla on this end and not being judged over here, and to find out what I can do and to do a whole lot of things to an audience that's not expecting this from me, because they don't know me. Who do they know? And I can do a lot of things, and I can learn about television for myself. And we did that. We did 6 shows over there, and they were live shows, 1 hour on Sunday night. That's how I would like to do it here.
Yeah.
And boy, the closest we've come is the show we did the other night. I think it was the best of the 3 that we've done. But anyway, we did these 6 shows, and I got used to, you know, I could see myself. I would do the show, and I got to do a lot of. That's when I learned how to dance and did some dancing numbers in each show, and tried a lot of different things, and then I could see myself, you know, knowing how I felt when I was doing that, and seeing what was happening, and I really was able to learn that if I just did it. Like when I do concerts, when I do the songs, I'm so comfortable there that I can just do the songs, and it's not something that's pre-planned or worried about afterwards or stuff like that. It's every time I do the song and every time I do a concert, it's the first time. Now that's an interesting little thing that I don't think it's. You know, and I don't know why I have it, and I know more about what it is now than I did before. But anyway, one of the things that I learned in regard to television is that if I just did it, if I didn't get nervous and start overdoing it or holding back, if I just did it, that came through. And through that experience, in that particular medium, I really got to get out of the way of what I do. and just do it. And somehow, it's just, lucky for me, I can work there.
How important to you has been, in that sense, has been EST? Did that?
EST was totally supportive and validating the things that I'm talking about, that I was learning. Have you?
I don't really know anything about it. I do know that you've.
Yeah, EST is
student.
Earhart Seminars Training, and Werner Earhart, I think I mentioned him earlier, started it, and it is the most far-out thing that I've come across. See, I'm very interested in looking. It seems that over my life, I spent a lot of time alone, and I look at myself. I look at it's like there's always been a little piece of me over here that sometimes, or practically always, is watching what I'm doing, and looking at what I'm doing, and how I feel while I'm doing it, and just kind of noticing, what's going on. And then I also notice other people and relate to that. When it's right there, sometimes it's not, and sometimes it is. You relate to how you feel. See, like, I felt a certain way that made me look like you look. Not right here now, but I'm saying, like when you see somebody who's nervous, you can start noticing nervousness. You can notice when somebody's insecure or something about a little situation. And I noticed that. And see, a lot of that is what's a part of what's coming through the music, is my experience and my observation of my experience, and then an effort to communicate that experience to somebody. So EST, which I can't tell you what EST is. I don't know what it is. Come in.